You know that feeling when you tell yourself you'll finally start doing the things that actually matter. Read that book, finish that project, clean the house, exercise, and yet your brain treats them like chores you have to drag yourself through. But somehow, it never complains when it's time to scroll, watch, or snack. It's not that you're lazy, it's that your brain is a master manipulator. It just happens to be working against you instead of for you. But here's the secret. Once you understand how it works, you can turn it into your greatest ally. You can trick it into enjoying the things it normally resists. And when that happens, discipline becomes effortless. See, your brain doesn't care about logic. It cares about reward. Every time you do something easy, checking your phone, eating sugar, watching videos, it floods you with dopamine, the chemical that screams, "Do that again." And when you try to do something meaningful but slow, like studying, working out, or building a skill, your brain stays silent. No reward, no rush, no excitement. It feels boring because it is unrewarding. The trick isn't to fight boredom, it's to hack the reward system behind it. Start by understanding that boredom isn't the absence of stimulation, it's the absence of anticipation. When something feels boring, it's usually because your brain sees no story, no hook, no emotional investment. Think about how you can watch a 3-hour movie, but can't study for 20 minutes. The movie feeds you micro-rewards every few seconds. New scenes, twists, emotional shifts. Your brain keeps getting little hits of dopamine. But when you sit down to study or work, it sees a giant, flat mountain with no visible reward at the top. You can trick it though by breaking the mountain into smaller peaks. Here's how it works. Before you start a boring task, don't focus on finishing it. Focus on starting it. Tell yourself, I'm just going to do this for 5 minutes. That's not laziness. It's psychology. The hardest part of any task isn't doing it. It's switching into it. Your brain is built to conserve energy. So when it senses a big, effort-heavy activity, it resists. But a 5-minute task? That feels safe. Once you begin, momentum takes over. This is called the activation energy principle. A small push gets the system running. Once it's running, the brain naturally keeps going because stopping now would waste the effort already invested. Now let's get more cunning. Machiavelli would say, you don't change people by demanding they act differently. You change them by changing their incentives. Your brain is no different. You can't force it to like effort, but you can make effort profitable. Reward yourself intentionally. Let's say you want to read daily. Pair it with something your brain already loves. Read while having your favorite drink. Listen to instrumental music you enjoy. Or promise yourself something small but immediate afterward. A walk, a video, anything. It's called temptation bundling. You combine something you should do with something you want to do. The mind begins to associate the boring task with pleasure until the resistance weakens. But rewards alone aren't enough. You must also learn to reframe how your brain perceives the task itself. For example, instead of saying, I have to write this report, say, I'm mastering the art of clarity. Instead of, I need to clean my room, say, I'm creating a space that reflects who I want to be. It sounds trivial, but language rewires perception. Your brain listens to your inner dialogue like a loyal subject. When you describe your work as painful, it obeys and resists it. When you describe it as empowering, it adjusts its emotional tone to match. You can train it to view ordinary effort as an act of self-respect rather than punishment. There's another layer most people miss. The reason boring things feel unbearable is because your brain lives in a constant loop of comparison. Everything is measured against what you've just experienced. If you've just spent an hour scrolling videos, your brain gets used to instant novelty, rapid stimulation. After that, even reading a single paragraph feels slow, dull, and dry. That's not a reflection of the task, it's withdrawal. You're comparing a marathon to a roller coaster. So if you want to trick your brain into enjoying boring things, you must first detox from overstimulation. Spend a few hours doing absolutely nothing. No phone, no music, no distractions. You'll be amazed how after that silence, even mundane things feel engaging again. Your baseline resets, and suddenly the world becomes vivid again. Machiavelli believed control begins not in the external world, but in the mind. He might say, to rule the state, you must first rule the citizen within. Your attention is your inner citizen. It rebels when overindulged, but obeys when led with strategy. You can't command it, you must outsmart it. One clever way is through micro-anticipation. Before beginning a task, create small mysteries or questions in your mind. For instance, if you're learning a skill, ask yourself, what's one thing I didn't notice last time? Curiosity is dopamine's cousin. It activates the same reward circuits. You're turning boredom into a puzzle, and puzzles are addictive. You can also use identity conditioning. Your brain loves to act in alignment with who it thinks you are. If you tell yourself, I'm someone who struggles with consistency, your brain collects evidence to prove it right. But if you repeat, I'm the kind of person who enjoys mastering slow things, it quietly starts shaping your behavior to match that story. It's not instant, but over time it changes what you find satisfying. You stop chasing quick dopamine because slow growth feels more natural to your self-image. You've reprogrammed the system, not through force, but through belief. There's also a biological trick that few people use. The dopamine system thrives on uncertainty. That's why gambling is addictive. The outcome is unpredictable. You can use that same principle to make boring tasks engaging. Instead of doing the same routine the same way, add slight variations. Time yourself and see how much faster you can complete something. Challenge yourself to do it with better posture, with more focus, with no breaks. Introduce small, random goals. The unpredictability keeps your brain alert. It's no longer a dull repetition. It's a game you're trying to win. And yet, the most profound transformation happens when you stop chasing dopamine altogether. When you sit with boredom long enough, you start to notice that beneath it lies peace, a kind of quiet strength. Most people never reach that point because they escape too quickly. But if you stay, if you breathe through the discomfort, you'll find your mind begins to calm. You become grounded, focused, undistracted. That's when the real shift happens. You stop needing the trick because you've trained your mind to find pleasure in the stillness itself. The boring becomes meditative. But don't worry, you don't need to become a monk to get there. Start with one thing today, something small, something you normally avoid. Approach it differently this time. Make it playful, curious, light. Talk to your brain like it's a partner, not an enemy. Convince it, seduce it, trick it if you must, but get it on your side. Because once you do, effort becomes joy. You won't need motivation anymore. You'll be driven by something deeper, a quiet pleasure in mastery itself. And that, in the end, is how ordinary people become extraordinary. They simply learn to like what others found boring. The reason most people fail to change their habits isn't lack of willpower. It's that they try to force themselves to enjoy something their brain still interprets as punishment. Think of it like trying to train a cat by yelling at it. It doesn't learn, it hides. Your brain is the same way. It avoids pain, seeks comfort, and remembers what gave it pleasure. If you treat focus, repetition, or stillness as forms of pain, your brain will sabotage you every single time. But if you begin linking even the smallest feeling of pleasure to those same actions, the rewiring starts happening quietly in the background. Here's the secret. Repetition is not the enemy. Meaningless repetition is. When you repeat something that feels pointless, your brain rebels. But when repetition has a narrative, when you can see yourself improving, it becomes addictive. That's why video games can make people grind for hours. The feedback is visible. You level up, unlock something, feel stronger. So to trick your brain into liking boring things, make progress visible. Don't just say you studied for an hour, track what you learned. Don't just say you exercised, note how your endurance changed. When your mind sees proof of movement, it naturally associates the effort with reward. Dopamine follows growth, not time spent. Let's go deeper. The brain has a built-in system called prediction error. It fires whenever something turns out better than expected. That's the chemical reason behind surprise joy. You can weaponize it. When you approach a dull task, set your expectations slightly low. Tell yourself, this will probably be tough. Then, as soon as you get into the flow and realize it's not that bad, dopamine surges. You just created a positive feedback loop out of thin air. Machiavelli would admire this. You controlled perception to influence reality. You didn't lie to your brain, you guided it. Another trick lies in rituals. Your brain craves consistency, not because it loves order, but because predictability feels safe. Build small rituals before your tasks. Light a candle, make a drink, clear your desk. Something symbolic that signals, we're about to enter focus mode. Over time, that ritual becomes a trigger. The moment you perform it, your mind automatically prepares for deep work. It's classical conditioning, yes, but elevated. You're teaching your brain to crave the calm of focus. What used to feel boring now feels grounding. But here's where most people go wrong. They expect the brain to switch overnight. It doesn't. This is warfare through patience. You're slowly reclaiming control from a system designed to distract you. And like any empire, it resists. It will whisper excuses, delay with comfort, tempt you with instant gratification. Don't fight the resistance. Observe it. Name it. Ah, that's my brain trying to pull me back to comfort. Awareness weakens its power. The moment you catch the pattern, you've already won half the battle. You might have noticed that boredom feels heavier when you resist it. That's because attention magnifies discomfort. The more you focus on how boring something is, the more unbearable it becomes. Instead, direct your focus towards sensation. What does the air feel like? What's the texture of what you're doing? The more you bring your attention to the details, the more the present moment expands. Suddenly, boredom dissolves into observation. It's the same principle monks use when they sweep floors for hours. It's not about the act, it's about dissolving ego into awareness. That's not just philosophy, it's neuroscience. Attention turns repetition into meditation. And if you still can't find joy in it, manufacture challenge. Your brain loves challenge more than ease. When you raise the difficulty slightly, timing yourself, optimizing speed, testing focus, you give your brain a puzzle to solve. It stops complaining and starts hunting. The act becomes play. That's why Machiavelli would never approach dullness as a victim. He'd manipulate it, shape it, twist it into a test of dominance. How calmly can I do what others rush through? How precise can I be where others are sloppy? It's not about the task, it's about self-command. The moment you turn it into a game of control, boredom loses its teeth. Let's talk environment. Your surroundings constantly tell your brain what role to play. If your workspace screams relaxation, your mind will never associate it with focus. If your room is cluttered, your brain sees chaos and prepares for avoidance. Small shifts, lighting, music, even scent, can trick your brain into entering a specific mode. A clean desk tells it, this is sacred ground. A certain playlist becomes your battle anthem. Never underestimate sensory control. It's silent manipulation over your mental state. And while most people crave instant results, your true advantage lies in micro-rewarding consistency. Every time you complete a boring task, don't just move on, celebrate it. Literally say, that was good. It sounds childish, but it's biological reinforcement. You're feeding your brain proof that effort equals satisfaction. Do this enough times, and the association becomes automatic. You'll start craving the sense of completion itself, not the external reward. The mind becomes self-fueling. Now there's one final layer to all of this, the paradox of effort. The more you chase enjoyment in everything, the less you feel it. But the moment you surrender the need to enjoy and simply commit, the enjoyment sneaks back in. It's like trying to fall asleep. Forcing it never works. But if you relax into it, it happens naturally. When you stop demanding that every moment feels exciting, the brain relaxes. It begins to notice the subtle pleasures, the quiet rhythm of typing, the order of organization. The calm after a task is done. These are invisible rewards you only feel when you stop chasing visible ones. So here's what it all comes down to. Your brain isn't lazy. It's untrained. It's addicted to the loud, the fast, the easy. But it's also infinitely adaptable. Feed it structure, novelty, and small victories, and it will learn to crave discipline the same way it once craved distraction. You can outsmart it, not by force, but by precision. You can make stillness addictive, repetition satisfying, patience intoxicating, and once that happens, you won't need motivation anymore. You'll have something far more powerful, momentum, the quiet kind that turns ordinary effort into instinct, the kind that builds empires, the kind that makes even the boring feel beautiful.